I'm Dave Aiken, and you're watching Public Affairs. I have a special guest today. I've been wanting to get him on the air for quite a while. My special guest today is Jeff Ruth. Jeff, welcome to Public Affairs.
Thank you. The second time I've been on, but the first time at the new facility.
Okay. Oh, we've only been here 6 years,
I
7
know that.
years.
It's about time we had you back on, right?
It's time. Now, folks, I will say this. Every time I see Jeff, I say, Jeff, when are you going to come over and be on Public Affairs? Well, I'll be there. And I say, Jeff, call and set up the appointment. Mm-hmm. And Jeff says, I'll call and set up the appointment. And Jeff, it's not been me that's the reason you've not been here.
Only a couple times did I have to kind of back out.
Yes, all right. We are going to have fun. In the morning, almost all of the viewers that are watching me, watching the program today, you hear Jeff Ruth early in the morning. What time do you get there, Jeff?
My shift starts at 5:30.
5:30?
And I get there at 5:30.
You get there at 5:30.
There's not a whole lot of show prep early in the morning with me, no.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. You go on the air at 5:30.
Actually, Ben, there's some national news, and then Ben does some local news and the weather. So actually, it's about 5:40 is when you first hear my voice.
Okay. Your shift starts at 5:30, and you've got 10 minutes to prepare.
Basically.
To find out what's happening.
You go to the computer screen, you check the wire, check the paper if it's there yet, and kind of go from there.
And you have so much fun with that computer, because I hear every now and then, my computer's down again.
You'll notice it's not as bad now as it used to be. A couple of years ago, we had all kinds of problems with that, but it's much better now. But as you know, you work with computers. Computers are not 100% foolproof.
That's right. So if I really mess up, I go back. It was a computer's problem.
That's the same thing I do. You mess up real bad, it was the computer's problem. If you hear two commercials at once, it wasn't my fault. It was the computer.
All right, Jeff. Now with radio, everybody knows your voice, and they identify. Every day, as soon as they hear your voice, that's Jeff Ruth, okay? But most people never get to see you unless they go to, you were out the U.S. Open the other night.
Right.
You were a voice there, mm-hmm. And I knew where you were, but I did. Most of the crowd, they heard this voice coming from nowhere.
It was the first time I'd had a chance. Of course, I've been to the U.S. Open for many years, but the first time I actually had a chance to be the MC. Really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Yes. But if people don't catch you out at an event, they hear your voice. And for some of our viewers, this is the first time they have ever seen your face. They may have seen it in the newspaper or something like that, but most of the time they just hear your voice.
And they're saying, boy, does he have a lot of gray hair.
Well, so some of the viewers that's watching today, when you hear a voice, you get an opinion what the person looks like. And then when you finally see them in person, they are different.
Oh, sure.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Just like when you hear somebody's voice in a tape recorder maybe for the first time, and then you match that voice up, it's like, that's not what I expected at all.
All right. All right. I got a whole bunch of stuff to ask you today. We're going to go back, and you have been in broadcasting for how long?
First official job in broadcasting, I had gone to Bowling Green and taken some courses there, but the first official job I had was started back in the late 70s.
Okay. And you started at a station in a neighboring state.
Falmouth, Kentucky.
Yes.
And you know where Falmouth, Kentucky is.
I know exactly where it is. And every single time that I drive by that tower down there, I think, well, there's where Jeff got his start.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Started out as news and sports director.
Yes.
And a couple of stories concerning the station. Station started out, we did not have a whole lot of money to begin with. In fact, the station...
All stations start that way.
And in fact, the station eventually declared bankruptcy. And I left there because I had gone 4 weeks without getting paid. It was the first week. It was like, well, we don't have it this week, but next week we'll pay you for 2 weeks. And after 4 weeks, after 4 weeks, it was like, hey, when you get, when you have the money, give me a call because I can't, keep working like that. But the first station was a lot of growing pains, and they didn't have enough money to pay the evening announcer. So there was a record store in Falmouth. I don't remember the name of it, don't even know if it's still there now. But it was owned by a person named Willie. Mm-hmm. So in lieu of getting paid, he would work 7 to midnight in the evening. He would play basically his records.
Right.
He would promote, it was a 5-hour show basically promoting his CD tape store in Falmouth. And Willie evidently had some enemies, I don't know, because one night he was on the air and somebody drove by and they took a shotgun and they fired through the big plate glass window out front. Didn't hit him, but the next night he brought in a gun. So, so every time you go into the radio station, here was Willie and he'd have a gun right next to the console. And that wasn't, I was a little uncomfortable about that.
Well, Jeff, I'll let you in on a secret. For years, next door, there at WMRN, there was a gun. Mm-hmm. I may still be there, but
it's not there anymore.
Okay, I don't know.
But you're right.
It was there because there was always the concern for security.
Sure.
And so it's not unusual for a radio station to have one of those.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
But it's unusual for somebody to shoot through the plate glass window.
Yeah, that was not real good.
All right.
But the station eventually mentioned they declared bankruptcy. They had all the phones taken out at one point, and then they had the teletype machine or the Associated Press wire, whatever you want to call it. Eventually that was taken out, and eventually they just closed up. But for a while I was filling in doing mornings. And I was tired, and I remember going down, I stuck in an Olivia Newton-John record. It was like 5 after 6 in the morning. They also canceled our subscription to the Cincinnati paper, so we had no news, basically no weather. The only thing you could talk about was stuff that you got out of the paper, and they canceled the subscription to the paper. So I remember it was like 5 after 6, and I remember playing the Olivia Newton-John record. I just put my head down for just a moment. The next thing, it was 6:45. We'd been off. We had 40 minutes of dead air. But nobody could call to say, hey, is there anything wrong?
Well, you tell the boss I haven't had a single complaint.
That's right. No single complaints. In fact, when the station first went on the air, there was no running water. So there were no restrooms.
Oh, my.
So there was a gas station about, probably a block down the road. So we had MacArthur Park, Richard Harris, 7 minutes and 14 seconds, I believe, and there was another song that the group Chicago had done, which was almost 7 minutes. Anytime you needed to go to the restroom, if you heard MacArthur Park or if you heard the Chicago song, you knew whoever was on the air, got in the car, drove it down to the gas station, got back, hopefully in 7 minutes and 14 seconds.
Very good. That's all right.
And if you heard that song 3 or 4 times in a shift, you knew the person really was probably having some problems.
Oh, goodness. Everybody that's been in broadcasting has had, there's good times, isn't there?
Sure.
And then there's also the times that there's a real panic. All right? Mm-hmm. What is do you want to share any of those with us? All right. I got to be careful when I ask these questions because there's some things that
You're talking about
keep it clean.
Maybe some things that have gone on the air that shouldn't have gone on.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
All right. There's one. In fact, I was telling you before we went on the air. A lot of times, most people have seen these bloopers.
Yes.
It was a commercial for a business that's no longer in town. And it started out, it was a father and son conversation. Unfortunately, the bad tape was put on the salesperson's desk the night before. The salesperson goes into work early that morning. This is about 7:30 in the morning. So at 7:30 in the morning, you have a lot of people listening.
Yes.
So he goes in about 7:15, he sees the bad tape on his desk. He says, well, this is supposed to start today. So he comes in, he takes out the good tape, sticks the bad one in.
Oh,
So 7:30, the news is on. The news person takes a break. I play the commercial, and all of a sudden, you hear a couple of words that shouldn't be on the air. And by the time you realize, is that what I think it was? There's a couple more words.
Oh, my.
So I stopped the tape right away. And I remember we had 7 lines coming into the station. I looked down,
Bling, bling,
and
bling.
I, well, absolutely, just like a Christmas tree. And there's some dead air, and I hear the news director in the intercom say, what was that? And I got back and I said, enough to know we're in trouble. So I said, just start doing the news. So he went through the news. My hands start to shake a little bit. I get sweaty palms. I get kind of sick at my stomach because, you know, I played the commercial even though I wasn't associated with the commercial. I was the one that was responsible for playing it, and right away I'm thinking, I'm going to get in trouble for this. Fortunately, we stopped it before there was any name or an address or a phone number. You know, if that had happened, then obviously we'd been in serious trouble. But we had that morning, the 2 people responsible for it, one person quit shortly after that, the other person we fired. Because, of course, you have to file. And the FCC, this was a good many years ago, the FCC wielded a lot more power maybe than it does now, which isn't necessarily a good thing, I don't think. But we had to file papers with the FCC in Washington explaining what happened, what we did to remedy it, to make sure it wouldn't happen again. And it was very, you know, complicated. But for weeks, we had people talking about that.
Yes.
There was another incident where, and I had only been at the station for a short time, and the news person had closed his newscast with a story about somebody on Lake Erie catching a walleye or whatever. It was a record-breaking fish using a shyster lure. And I'm not much of a fisherman, and he closed and he said, now back to Jeff Ruth. And I said, speaking of shysters, this portion of the news has been brought to you by, and I named the business. Meaning, you know, I didn't know the person at the business. I had never dealt with the business. I didn't know, I mean, it wasn't anything intentional. That's just the way it came out. And that morning, the person that had the business was listening and called up, and I had to go down, and my general manager and I went down, and we explained, you know, it was, you know, it may have sounded like that, but it certainly wasn't meant like that. It wasn't anything intentional. It was just, you know, one of those situations. So that was a rather embarrassing moment.
Oh, I guess it was. Very good.
Not so much, and I guess I can tell this story because Charlie's told the story. Of course, you know, I think everybody knows Charlie. Years ago, Charlie was doing the mornings, and Don Millard, for years, of course, is called in on Thursday mornings with the chopper. And Charlie was tired that morning, and Don starts to talk, and I remember Charlie putting his head down just for a few seconds. Dennis Garrigan was the news director at the time. Don got done and said, what do you think of that, Charlie, or something? Charlie? Charlie? And Dennis was getting ready for the news, and he didn't hear any response. So Dennis couldn't figure out what was wrong. So Dennis goes from the newsroom through the hallway into the studio, and Don's talking to Charlie like, Charlie, are you there? Charlie. so Dennis kind of tapped Charlie in the shoulder, and you know, Charlie shot up and said, "Oh, you done, Don?" just like that. Yeah, Don, or yeah, Charlie, I'm done. So I kind of told that one on Charlie, but he's told that story before.
Oh,
but there's all kinds of stories that have happened.
There's always when the equipment doesn't work right,
sure.
Or someone is not in the. Live programs. Goodness gracious, you never know what's going to happen in a live program.
Just like this.
Just like this. I don't know what he's going to say. But do you still use the 7-second delay for the
maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but no, we haven't had this 7-second delay
okay,
for quite a while.
All right.
But surprisingly, I have, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 times in the last 15 years, have ever really needed it.
Okay.
Nothing really intended was the case. Somebody one morning called up on Tradio, and it wasn't anything intentional. It was just a word that got out and was like,
Yeah.
yep, we need that. Yeah, you're right. But it's one of those things, as you say, live radio, things are going to happen. A lot of times, with the equipment or whatever, somebody's supposed to be there and they're not there. I mean, those things happen.
And things break. Transmitters break, everything breaks.
Sure.
And boy, okay. No, I'm tickled to death to have you over here today to talk a little bit about radio and some of the things going on. And again, my guest today is Jeff Ruth. Jeff is on mornings from 5:30 in the morning till about 11 o'clock, 12?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
I'm at work when you get off, so I don't know what time you end up.
Now, see, you're very comfortable on television. I'm very comfortable on radio. I don't like television because, we're sitting here. It's like, where do I put my hands? Do I fold my arms? How high do I bring my knee up? Which camera do I look in? I'm not comfortable on television. You probably don't, of course. With what you do and preaching and so forth, it doesn't bother you to get up in front of a crowd. If I have to go out and speak in front of 25 people at Rotary or whatever, the hands get a little sweaty, I get a little nervous stomach or whatever. I don't enjoy doing that because...
Well, you're going to have to come back more often so you can get used to this.
Get used to it. On radio, you don't know if anybody's listening. You assume that somebody's listening, and if you make a mistake and somebody calls, you know they're listening. But on radio, you don't have that, where you can look into the camera and know that somebody's out there and actually watching.
You only know for sure that someone is watching or listening when you make a mistake.
That's right.
You can get the opinion that no one anywhere is listening, okay, till you make a mistake and they come out of the woodwork.
Yep. And in fact, another story I can relate, years ago I got a letter addressed to me at WRVHS Radio.
RVHS.
To River Valley High School Radio.
Oh, okay.
And it was somebody that was criticizing me because, and I don't remember the exact wording, but it was like every basketball game you did this year, River Valley. You did a River Valley game. So I went back and looked, and out of the 6 teams in Marion County, they were only the third most team that we covered. We covered 2 other teams more than we covered River Valley. For whatever reason, though, he felt I was partial to River Valley, and it was like every game I did was a River Valley game. So, those are the kind of letters that you get occasionally, and you just, those are going to happen occasionally. Just, you try not to let them bother you. But I do get a lot of good comments too, which helps a lot.
Yep. Okay. Now, things have changed with radio, and all broadcasting has changed. When you hear Jeff Ruth in the morning, he's live.
Yes.
I don't know, you may cut a few commercials that ahead of time.
Yeah,
but,
commercials generally.
Commercials, yes,
right.
Okay. But when you hear him on the radio, he is live. He's not coming to you by tape delay. This broadcast today is coming to you by tape delay, but normally he's live, okay?
Right.
So if you make a mistake on radio, if you make a mistake, 1 second later, that mistake is 186,000 miles away.
You're right.
So it's kind of hard to go correct that mistake.
You're right.
All right. And the difference, folks, I'm going to share something with you. The difference between a professional and an amateur is how they handle it when they make a mistake. Newscasts. A lot of times the VCR has shown up some of the mistakes that newscasters really make. You can wind it back there and say, did they say what I thought they did? Wait a minute. They did.
Yeah, you're right.
They did. But and the difference between a professional and an amateur is that the amateur will make a mistake and they'll. The professional makes a mistake and they go right on and never say anything.
Hoping that if somebody thought they heard something, they'll say,
They're
well,
not sure.
Yep, they
They're
must,
not sure.
must not have. You're right.
Okay, but it's, you know, now we're going to have everybody taping your broadcast to see if they can find a mistake that you make in on it.
Oh, there'll be some mistakes there, I'm sure. But you know, the incident a couple of weeks ago with Andrea Canberra, or the Channel 10. Oh, who's the evening newscaster? And now I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
Angela Pace.
Yes, okay.
Where there was an incident where she was taping a public service announcement, and something went wrong, and she did something that she shouldn't have done, and it made it on the air. It wasn't necessarily her fault that it made it on the air. It was somebody else that did that. But of course, she's the one then that looks bad. And I know the next day, you know, she apologized, you know, profusely for it. It was one of those things, you know, it happened, and almost, and granted, she had to apologize for that, but it's almost one of those, because I didn't see it when it originally happened, but I saw the newscast the next day, and right away, the people that didn't see what happened, it's like, well, you know, what's she apologizing for? And almost like it made it worse than it actually was.
And it probably did. It probably did. Years ago, now you've been in broadcasting for how many years?
With WMRN since 1980, basically late 70s,
okay.
about 77,
right.
78.
A few years, okay, by 80, the announcers were doing their own engineering. When you came there in 80?
With the exception of Morning Magazine, and we still have Morning Magazine.
Joe Peters ran the...
No, back then, you got to sit in the studio a little extra, and I engineered. Marianne Michaels was there for a long time, and basically you would have an engineer, but it wasn't anything real complicated. You just kind of turned the switches on, and you know, you could make telephone calls or look at your mail or something like that when that was on. But now there's no such thing as, quote, an engineer to run various programs.
Yes, but back many years ago, there was. Now, and then they got to the point, wait a minute, things, were you into it when the operator of the station had to have a first-class FCC license?
We had to, in order to get into broadcasting, and I don't know what it is now, but you had to go to Detroit.
Yes.
At this time, or back in the late 70s. You had to take, I think it was Title, or Chapter 9 or Title 9, I forget what it was, but there were two separate tests that you took. One was a test that meant you knew basically enough to actually talk on the radio. And then there was another much harder test that meant you could operate and engineer. And I remember I flunked that a couple of times. I think I passed it the third time, but that was a much tougher test. But back then, you actually needed to pass both tests in order to actually be on the radio.
Now, you could operate with a third-class FCC license if the station was not directional, but if the pattern was a directional pattern, then it required a first class. Yes.
We're going back.
And now they don't care if you got anything.
That's right. We're going back a long time here. You're right. And the FCC, I mentioned the FCC earlier, being Federal Communications Commission. I mean, years ago they regulated.
Oh my.
Not just radio, but television, basically communications. You would have maybe an inspector come in once or twice a year. And
yes.
They would look at every. You have to. Each day you would take a daily log of, you know, what the meter readings are and so forth.
Oh yes, every 3 hours.
And he would come back, I mean, he could sit down and they might spend 5 or 6 hours at the station looking at old meter readings. Did they calibrate right? If not, you could be fined. I mean, just one thing after another, and now it might be 5 years or longer, and he may come in for 5 minutes, make sure you signed your name on the log, and that's it. So things have really changed from that standpoint.
Yes, yes, it's quite a difference.
You mentioned engineering. When I first came here, Joe Peters, who of course many of our listener viewers remember Joe, he would come out, he would engineer. If you had a ball game to go to, if you did a remote at depot sales or wherever, he would go out, he'd set the equipment up. Your responsibility for that 2 hours was to talk to whomever you were going to talk to, do the interviews. He controlled everything. He tore it down. Same thing with ball game. Not so anymore. You go out by yourself, you set the equipment up, you talk, you take the equipment down.
You hope that everything works when you
You're
get
right.
there.
You're right. That's why you try and get there about an hour, 45 minutes ahead of time.
Yes, yes. And the thing is, you can have problems, everything from the microphone through the Marty transmitter to the receiver to the routing.
It can be one bad mic cord. I mean, it could be a very elaborate setup, and if you have one bad mic cord or a bad input, you're not going to get on the air. It's going to sound just awful.
Right. Okay, I want to tell all the viewers that have joined us late. With radio, people are joining and leaving, and we're actually getting that with television too. So all you viewers that have joined us late, I have a special guest today, Jeff Ruth. Jeff is with, you operate, well, you are WMRN in the mornings, WMRN AM. For years and years, that was the only radio station in Marion County, and then they had the FM station. And then later on, the second FM station came in.
WDIF.
Clear Channel has bought all of the radio stations.
Right, including the station up in Upper Sandusky, WYNT.
Yes.
Which is now also, even though we broadcast primarily for Upper Sandusky, a lot of the sponsors, the studio actually is here in Marion.
Now, years ago, when you would hear a radio broadcast, now, Jeff still does it the old-fashioned way. You're there, you got all these computers around you, but you're live.
Sure.
You're in Marion. When they hear you in Marion, you're in Marion. You're really here in Marion. But broadcasting has changed now. An announcer on a radio station is not necessarily where you think they are they?
And unfortunately, that's one of the things with radio that I don't like, but there's not a whole lot we can do. With our stations, we're all live in the morning, be it Paul on WDIF or Scott on Buckeye Country or Steve on WYNT. Generally 6 to 10 and maybe 3 to 6, 3 to 7, kind of considered the peak hours. So we try and always have somebody live at those times. But during maybe middays, like say 10 till 2, and then evenings, a lot of it is already pre-programmed or already taped ahead of time.
Okay, but you could have an announcer sitting in California, and you wouldn't know that he isn't here, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so things have changed. Jeff is here in Marion, Ohio.
That's right.
All of you that are watching, when you hear him, he is live. He's a human. Okay.
If you call me on the telephone, I'll
call him on the phone.
I'll probably be the one that answers the phone too.
Let's see. We got. What have I got? 1 minute. I got about a minute. Okay. And sometimes you really have a problem when there's a snowstorm and. What have you got, 8 lines coming into your studio?
Counting the basically with the contest lines, we have 9.
9 lines. Okay. 1 minute. We have got 1 minute till we go back.
Big finish.
But a lot of times when it's snowed, how many lines light up where people are saying, are we going to have school today?
It's not as bad as it was 5 or 10 years ago. I know the schools have really worked and sent the message home with the kids and the parents, don't call the radio station, because it's nothing more frustrating than spending 8 minutes going down the whole list of school closings and delays and business closings, pick up the phone thinking it's going to be another superintendent and having somebody say, is my school closed? That can be frustrating.
Yes, it can be very frustrating. Got 30 seconds. Jeff, I have really, really enjoyed enjoyed having you on.
We didn't get to cover some of the things
Oh,
we were going to
we were
cover
gonna
either.
a lot of stuff. So we're going to schedule another appointment with Jeff to have him come back later, and we'll talk about all these things that we didn't get to talk about
Good.
today.
Look forward to it.
So, Jeff, on behalf of the Central Ohio Association of Christian Broadcasters, I thank you for being my guest, and to all of our viewers, we'll see you the next time.
Again, my pleasure.
Hello, I'm Dave Aiken, and you're watching Public Affairs. We're always trying to find things of interest for our viewers, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Tarina Rose. Tarina, welcome to Public Affairs.
Thank you.
All right. Now, okay, what did you come here for?
Well, my name's Tarina Rose, and I'm the Executive Director at the American Red Cross. And today I wanted to come and talk a little bit about preparedness activities because we're getting ready for September to be National Preparedness Month.
You know, I was kidding you a little bit because I knew why she came. And I shouldn't do that to people, but I know why you're here, and I know all about the preparedness that you're doing. And in fact, there is a little thing that says, there's a little slogan that I have heard, and it's a catchy little slogan. It says, together we prepare.
Yes.
Okay, who came up with that?
Well, it's probably some very smart person sitting in Washington, D.C. That's a national program through the American Red Cross.
Okay.
And it is a program that we're operating that identifies 5 steps to emergency preparedness. And those 5 steps are for households to make a plan,
Yes.
to build a kit,
Yes.
to volunteer, to donate blood, and to get trained.
Okay. For the next half hour, we're going to talk about these 5 things, okay? And we might as well get the first and the roughest one out here. Donate blood. If we have a disaster, if we have an event, in this last week, there has been quite a bit of blood used in Marion County, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I'm sure that the supplies are getting kind of low.
Yes. There are certain times of the year that we deal with shortages.
Yes.
And that usually revolves around holidays and the summer. Because people are on vacation, people just don't get out to give blood and make those appointments.
Yes.
And as you saw on the news this past week, the holiday weekends are also a time where we have more traffic accidents.
Yes.
And those traffic accidents many times require blood
Yes.
from donors. And so we're always seeking to increase the number of donors that we have and to make sure that our loyal ones are making it out during that holiday and vacation time. We operate blood mobiles around town. In fact, we have had blood mobiles at the chapter house on a pretty regular basis. You're eligible to donate blood every 56 days.
Yes.
And so we have been trying to accommodate that schedule.
Yes, I'm asking everybody to give blood myself because, and I used to give blood, but then I got a letter from the Red Cross that says, we're not going to take your blood anymore. You mean, it's free. I'm going to give it to you. No, we're not going to take your blood anymore. There are people that are perfectly healthy that the Red Cross has such strict guidelines that if certain antigens show up in the blood or different things, scared me to death when I got the letter.
Yeah.
Went to the doctor and I said, what's wrong? He said, probably nothing.
Yeah.
And so he said, let's check you out. Nope, nothing. It's just, he said, they finally came down to 3 things that could cause it. Working with petrochemicals, and I had done that. And being exposed to hepatitis, and I'd done that in the military. And the third one was being fat. So I've done that. But anyway.
Well, it's important for people to realize on the deferrals for blood that sometimes you may be deferred just for that visit.
Yes.
And that shouldn't be a deterrent to go back.
Right.
And there are times where people have a permanent deferral, and because of certain conditions, they're just not able to donate blood.
Yes. But when I got that letter from him, I got kind of scared.
And that's certainly understandable.
And I talked to the Red Cross chapter, and they said They said, we found out that we will lose, by checking for these different things, we'll lose 10% of our donors. But they said by doing this, we eliminate possible things with hepatitis.
Right.
And so, fine. So give blood for old Dave, okay?
Yeah, to make up.
He may need it sometime.
Yeah, the Red Cross is takes very seriously that
Yes.
obligation to provide not only an adequate supply of blood,
Right.
but also a very safe supply of blood for the nation.
Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, we've talked about blood.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
and again, set up your appointment to give blood. You've got an ongoing thing. There is no substitute for blood.
No, there's not. Not at this point.
Not at this point. They keep trying to come up with a substitute, but there is nothing. If you need blood, another human has to give it to you. Okay,
And it's important to remember too that blood donors need to be at least 17 years old.
Yes.
They need to weigh at least 110 pounds. They need to be basically healthy. And at this point, to accommodate scheduling, the Blood Services likes people to schedule appointments to donate blood. So that way, when you go in, you don't have to wait, and you can be seen at your appointment time.
Okay. Well, we've taken care of the first
Yes.
thing on this.
Yes,
Let's
we have.
keep our blood supply up now. Okay. You were talking about making a plan.
Yes.
And if you're going to be successful in anything, you have to have a plan.
Right.
So, and going with the thing, together we prepare. Tell us a little bit about the rest of the plan.
Okay.
Go ahead. Karina, you're on.
Okay. Well, one of the steps is to make a plan, and that could be not only at your home, but it could also be at your place of business. To be sure that you have a plan in place to what your family would do if a certain type of disaster happened. And that might be planning for if we had a fire in our home, what would
Yes.
we do? If there was a tornado, what would we
Yes.
do? If there was a massive kind of disaster and we had to evacuate, what kinds of things would our household do? So, for instance, in a fire situation, the recommendation is that you determine at least 2 ways that you could escape from any room in your household. And sometimes you think that might be a no-brainer, but when I did my map of my house and looked at how I would get out of my bedroom if there was a fire, I realized that I live on a second story, and that's pretty far away to drop. And I didn't have a roof or porch or anything to go out on, so I decided in my household that I needed to get an escape ladder,
Right.
so that we could throw an escape ladder out the window. Now, my husband's kind of a big guy, and I looked at that ladder and it said it would would hold all the weight, but I decided that I still wanted to go down the ladder first. But those are the kinds of things that you need to think about, as far as making a plan. With our household, we have a number of pets, and so another consideration for us was what we would do with the pets if there were certain kinds of disasters.
Right.
And really, I think the process of thinking about your plan brings up a lot of very unique things to your household.
Yes, there are many, many things that could, result in a disaster for a household. You were talking about, a fire, and a fire can happen anywhere at any time. Nobody plans for them,
Right.
but they happen. And I will say one thing for you. I used to serve on the emergency squad and fire department, and a lot of times we would see the Red Cross
Yes.
come to the scene, and I've got to commend you for that.
Well, thank
Okay?
you. Thank you. That's another service that the Red Cross provides during times of disaster. And not only are we there to support individual families, but we're also there to support emergency personnel, whether that be fire, police. We were involved in, there was an explosion over the weekend
Yes.
that resulted in a lot of law enforcement being in Marion County.
Yes.
And we went out and provided canteen services, breakfast, and drinks for the people that were on the scene for that disaster.
Yes. Now, no one had planned on that disaster.
No.
And that's why, there are so many things that happen, and they happen suddenly. Another thing that many of us live within a half mile of a railroad.
Yes.
People don't realize some of the things going down the railroad. And how quickly, if there is a train derailment, how that certain chemicals can be extremely hazardous. And it's not inconceivable to have to evacuate a half a mile from the railroad or even a mile from the railroad.
Right.
So there's many things. And trucks going down the road. Let's look at some of the things. I saw a gas tanker one time run through a house, okay? And so, you know, a tanker truck can overturn, rupture the thing. There are so many things that could cause a disaster.
And you don't wake up in the morning thinking, I think I'm going to have a disaster today.
Right.
It happens to you when you're certainly not expecting it. And the idea under this preparedness program is that if that day ever happens to you, if that day ever happens to this community, that we are prepared and can respond to it. Hopefully it never will.
Every community at some time or another is going to have a disaster. And the disaster could be weather related. The disaster could be man-made. Man-made is the one we're worried about now.
Yeah.
But and Homeland Security and okay.
And I will tell you, under the issue of Homeland Security, when the war began in Iraq, we had a lot of inquiries from residents in the Marion area about preparedness activities that they could do, because there was some concern in their mind about terrorism and things like that. And we have tried to kind of capitalize on some of these national incidents, because although you need to be prepared for a terrorism incident, the fact of the matter is, odds are, and during that time, odds were that they were more likely going to be affected by the blizzard and the winter storm that we were expecting that following weekend. So we kind of took that opportunity to talk with that family about the things that they could do to be prepared, no matter which one happened. And really, all of these activities apply to either type of situation.
Yeah. So. Talking of the blizzard of '78. We lost the power. I had hot water heat. Everything froze and busted. I couldn't go back to my house for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I and my family know what it is to have to go to an evacuation center. And so, a disaster can happen. Folks, it definitely can happen, and it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
Okay?
And the second step of Together We Prepare is to build a kit.
Yes.
And you have talked about some things that make it necessary to have a kit in your home. And I'll tell you that several weeks ago we had some pretty severe weather, some severe storms. And at my own home, we lost power. We had some significant trees down. And, we were kind of concerned about what we would do. But I had gone through these steps and had my kit together.
All right.
And my husband was running around the house, and he says, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this? And I said, we have an emergency preparedness kit. Let's get it out. And sure enough, all of the things that he needed were in that kit. And we had things like a radio and the batteries to operate the radio, so that we could listen to the radio station and find out what was happening and what was happening with the weather. We also had things that, we had things to eat, so that if our power didn't come back on, we would have something to eat. They recommend that you have water supply in there. And basically, they're looking at you pulling together the things that you would need if you needed to survive for 3 days while you were waiting on emergency personnel to help you.
Okay, 3 days.
3 days.
All right. What
so
do you
think
need
of the
for
things
3
you would
days?
need.
Okay, so in that emergency kit, medications.
Exactly.
So you're going to have a 3-day supply of medication, medical equipment. A diabetic that's on insulin would need 3 days of supply of insulin.
Exactly. We rotate our glasses as we get new glasses. If the old glasses are still prescription that we can wear, we put those in the emergency kit. Can you imagine if you had a disaster and lost your glasses?
Broke my glasses. Where'd that note
Not
go?
only would the lights be off, but you wouldn't have your glasses.
Right.
So,
good idea. Okay, so let's just take a few of the things. 3 days supply of medicine. Okay, that's you're going to have 3 days supply of food. 3 days supply of water. Radio.
if you have a dog,
flashlight.
you might need
supplies for the dog. After 3 days with no other supplies, we're going to eat the dog. Okay.
Oh my. We include things in there like duct tape because
Yes.
you know
Yes.
you can do all kinds of things with duct tape.
Yes.
They recommend having plastic sheeting in there.
Yes.
You might use that plastic sheeting if there was an issue related to chemicals. You know, some of the things you've talked about. The other thing you might use it for though is if it was a winter storm, or if it was something that knocked your windows out, it would be a way to shield the inside of your house from the outside elements.
Duct tape and plastic. You can do a lot with duct tape
Yes, you
and
can.
plastic.
Yes, you can.
Oh, goodness, yes.
And we have a small little toolkit. We have a first aid kit.
Yes.
You know, those types of things. And just think about, you know, times that you've been without and the kinds of things that you might need. We do have a complete list available at the Red Cross to get you started. We put ours in like Rubbermaid containers so that if there was a reason that we needed to evacuate our household, we could stick those in the car to go so that we could arrive at a shelter and really have some of the things that we might need right off the bat.
Very good.
So.
Very good. Okay, now some of you that are watching the program today, look around your house and find out, you know, plan for 3 days. What are you going to do? Should this happen right now, what are you going to do for the next 3 days?
And I will tell the viewers that when they look at the list of supplies that they need, that sometimes that can be overwhelming because there's so much there, and also it could be costly to put those things together. And with consideration of that, we have come up with some alternatives. One of the things that we found was that if you go to you know, Walmart or Myers or those type of stores, in the camping section, they have a little survival kit.
Yes.
And that will contain a lot of the things that you would need as a starter for your own disaster kit at home. And basically, my recommendation to people is to look for something like that, have your 3-day supply of water, which you can do at little or no cost to you. You can reuse milk jugs to store that water, and then have something that you could eat if you needed to over the 3 days, even if we're talking about you know, granola bars or, you know, power bar, things like that, to have something available. And those are some options that are very affordable. And then as time goes by, you can look at adding to that kit so that you can have maybe a more extensive kit available at your home.
Okay. All right. Now, I was looking at the clock, and we've got about 15 minutes, and I got a whole page of stuff I wanted to cover here. Several things that I do want to cover before we go too far. Maybe somebody, you do a lot with volunteers, don't you?
Yes. And volunteering is one of the emergency preparedness steps because when we're looking at issues of homeland security and things that might be very widespread, we want our community to be in that mode of volunteerism because when those things happen, those are the people that are going to come out to help us. And if we have been working with them already and they're trained volunteers and are knowledgeable about the community, that's going to make them much more effective when we get into a real emergency situation. So we have a wonderful crew of volunteers at the Red Cross. We have almost 300 on our roster right now. People volunteer in many ways. We have a volunteer from your household.
Yes.
Dave's wife, Carolyn, sits on our board and is currently one of the officers on our board. And that's the way that she volunteers for us.
And
you know,
she gives blood.
And she gives
Lots
blood.
of blood. And
She has to make up for you.
Healthy
Good. We also have volunteers. Many of the volunteers that staff the desk at Marion General Hospital are Red Cross volunteers. The ladies, when you go to the Bloodmobile, ladies and gentlemen, actually, we have several husband and wife teams that work the Bloodmobiles and feed you when you get your snack at the end. Are Red Cross volunteers. We have people who volunteer their time at you know, we do not compensate them, but they volunteer their time to be on call, so that if there is a fire at your house and somebody needs to call for help, they can call the Red Cross and we have somebody that will respond. And in almost all cases, we respond within 30 to 60 minutes, depending on, you know, exactly where the emergency occurs. Certainly, if it's in a village, it takes us a little longer.
One of the other things that the Red Cross does that people probably doesn't think about, the military.
Exactly.
When there is a need to contact someone in the military, death in the family or serious illness, something like that, Red Cross can get through.
Yeah, we can.
Also
they'll listen to us.
Yeah. And the thing that's amazing is that sometimes when someone's a prisoner of war, the only people that can make contact with that person is a member of the Red Cross.
Exactly.
And so it's just, you know, they do an awful lot.
Yeah, and under the military services, that is another one of our emergency type services that we offer, so that if there is a military issue, we are available around the clock.
Yes.
And like you said, if there is a service person who has had a death in their family back home, and they need to have that communication or that information verified and communicated to their commanding officer to make a leave decision, that has to go through the Red Cross, and there's no other entity who does it. And you know, our calls for military activity certainly are up, because we have many more residents of Marion County who are deployed through the armed forces, and so that's something that's really been keeping us busy over the past year and a half.
Okay. Now, we've covered a few of the things, but the Red Cross also has certain training programs, CPR classes. You still doing CPR
of
classes?
Course.
Lots
of course.
of CPR
That's
classes.
the core of the Red Cross training program. We have a lot of people who come in and do training at the Red Cross because they have to. Their job says you must be certified. We have home health providers, nurses assistants, coaches that are required to have certain levels of training. And you know, for a long time, that was the core of the business that we served. But under this Together We Prepare program, and there is an emphasis on being prepared in your own home, because if I'm at home with my husband and he has a heart attack, the first line of defense is me.
That's
and
right.
so I need to be
Got
trained
4
and
minutes.
trained and prepared. Yeah.
That's right. You've got 4 minutes, folks. 4 minutes, and how long does it take to roll a squad?
Exactly.
So, you know, get some training. Have the CPR training. Who knows when you will be the only person around that can save a life, okay?
Yeah.
And, you know, with the training, a person can spring into action. And believe me, it works. CPR works,
Yes, it does.
okay? But you've got to do it quick. You can't wait. Wait 5 minutes and, well, that's it.
Yeah, and you know, we saw this in action this past year. I'm a member of Marion Rotary Club, and we had an incident where one of our speakers stopped breathing, and and CPR was done on the scene, and it made a difference. It made the difference, you know, the big difference. But we have training. We offer that once a month, at least, at a minimum. So if people are interested in doing that training, they can certainly contact the office to schedule that. We do have scholarship programs available for those who are unable to afford that type of training. We also do lifeguarding classes.
Oh yes, definitely.
Had a lot of activity with that during the summer. We have some fun classes. We have a first aid for pets that we offer usually twice a year. Sometimes that's a good way for people who might be leery about learning CPR and first aid for humans, are willing to do it for their dog, and so we kind of get them in the door that way. We also do disaster training, and as we talk about the preparedness steps, the disaster training is sometimes a real beneficial training for the public to go through, either for themselves or because they might be interested in volunteering at the Red Cross under disaster services.
Okay, all right. Well, we've got about 10 minutes, so I need to cover a bunch of stuff here. The Red Cross, I've only got 7 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
They're telling me 7 minutes, and we got to cover a lot of stuff, okay? All nonprofit organizations are feeling a crunch. All nonprofit organizations. How are you doing on donations?
We are feeling that crunch as well, and probably the biggest hit that we took was because of the United Way campaign. Although everyone worked tremendously hard this past year, they did not meet goal, and that resulted in a significant decrease in funding for us. We also rely on funding through George Albert monies through the Columbus Foundation, and because of the market, the health of the market, we also took a reduction that way. We have had some good donations from the general public under our membership drive. Annually, we hold an event called the Radiothon, where we have items that we auction off. And this year, we set a goal and actually surpassed what we had done in the past. Had a record a record of $23,000, so that was really good.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah, we've had some clubs that have come up and been real helpful to us in providing some donations. And we also have a branch at the at MCI, and have a branch of almost 300 members in the institution who are active in Red Cross, and they raise quite a bit of money too that is able to help us. Certainly, we've had to look at cutbacks. We've had to look at ways that we could save money. The board and the staff has been very, very adamant that those cutbacks not be cutbacks in service. And so we have, at this point, we've been able to assure that we're still providing the same level of services to disaster victims that we have in the past. But at some point, that could become an issue if we can't keep the donations up.
Okay, now let's go one more thing. We're talking a little bit about the Red Cross. For all of you that have joined us late, okay, and that happens with television. People join about halfway through the program sometimes. I have Trina Rose with Red Cross here in Marion, Ohio, and we're talking about a thing that together we prepare. That's a catchy slogan. Whoever did that did all right.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, how can people become a member of the Red Cross?
Well, membership at the Red Cross is established either by donating blood, donating money, or donating time. And if you meet any of those criteria, then you're considered a member of your local Red Cross.
Okay. They won't take my blood.
Well, we'll have to get you some other way.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to ask them to get ready to put the address up on the screen.
Okay.
Phone number up on the screen.
Okay.
Okay. Explain your hours.
Okay.
You are open.
We're open from 8:30 to 4:30, actual office hours, but because we are an emergency service, we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if it's an emergency.
I will say that I have seen your canteen. You call it a canteen van. I have seen it on site.
Yes.
At some odd hours.
Yes.
Okay, so I commend you for that. Okay, a 24-hour-a-day service. You're located at 1849 Somerset Drive here in Marion, Ohio, and okay. Well, that's a nice building.
Thank
you. How long
you.
have you been in that new building?
We've been there almost 3 years. And that's a building that we use not only to provide our training, but in the case of a disaster, that building could be used either as a headquarters for disaster coordination, or it could be used as a shelter. And we also have a number of community agencies that use that building for meetings. Okay. And so it's really become a building that's seen a lot of use.
Okay. Now, there's another thing that I'm going to throw out. Do you help anybody with rent and utilities or anything like that?
Well, actually, we get a lot of calls for assistance with rent and utilities, and I think it's probably because the public perceives us as a place to go for help. And for some situations, we do, and that would be families who are involved in a disaster. And disaster is, flood, fire, those types of things. What we do through the agency is we do look to coordinate and to get people referred to other entities who can help them if they don't meet our criteria. All
right. And Trina, thank you for being my guest on Public Affairs, and we hope to have you back again real soon. So on behalf of the Central Ohio Association of Christian Broadcasters.
You have been watching the Retro Hour here on COACB TV. The Retro Hour is 100% viewer funded. You may send your love gifts to COACB, 1282 North Main Street, Marion, Ohio. And again, thank you for watching.